Today we're talking about what programming languages you should be learning in 2019. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jaden Fedok, and today, as I mentioned, we're talking about programming languages, and specifically what programming languages you should be learning in 2019. Now this is a big question a lot of people have, especially people that are just starting in their software development careers. So I've been writing code for quite a few years now, and having done so, you realize that learning new programming languages is a huge aspect of coding and being a software developer anywhere in the industry. As you grow and you learn more and more about a specific language, you realize that there are certain things that each language does that some languages can't compete with. So there are certain languages you have to use for certain tools. To give you an example, if you want to write an iOS app, you have to learn Swift or Objective-C. You have a couple language options, but you're specifically going to be writing in one of those two. So as a seasoned software developer, you realize that learning a new programming language is something that you're going to be still doing for your entire career. It's not something that you're only doing as a beginner. So in this video, I'll talk about 3 of the major programming languages that I think you should be learning this year. Okay, so number 1 on this list is Python, and I think this is hands down the most popular language going into this year and is climbing very, very rapidly in the ranks of most loved programming languages. People love to use it. It's easy to use, it's easy to work with, the syntax is pretty clear, and one of the things that makes this especially good for beginners who are learning programming is that you can very easily read what the code is doing. So in more complicated languages, I know one that I'll mention later, is tricky to see what you're building as you're writing it, and things like syntax and all the different shortcuts that people are using make things even more difficult for you to learn as you're specifically as a beginner or translating into that language from another one. However, Python, which is why it's my first recommendation for people to learn, is very, very useful in that the code itself looks very similar to the pseudocode, or it's pretty easy to read, almost like it was a sentence. So using the language is clear and simple, and one of their mantras as a language is to keep things as simple as possible. So I always appreciate that, and I think that that's a great winner for first programming language that everyone should be learning, whether you're a seasoned software developer or you're just getting started in coding. Now before I go on to numbers 2 and 3, I want to talk a little bit about how you're going to be learning a specific programming language. So everyone needs to learn to code at some point. I recommend that to everyone. I think it's something that everyone needs to have in their back pocket as a skill, a hard skill that they can use, whether that's in an interview or really just doing their regular jobs. It's something that people should know how to do, as computers are really controlling the language of business in the future. I know accounting and other things, but I believe that computer technology is the language of the future. Coding is what's going to be driving the software and the innovation that we'll be seeing over the next 5, 10, 20 years. So understanding how that works, understanding how computers think, is something that can add significant value to anyone's career, no matter what stage you are, whether you're in elementary school or whether you're just about to retire. Learning how to program and how to work with computers in a more significant way will have a significantly positive impact on how you are able to interact with the world around you, specifically as it changes every single day. And as you learn these different programming languages, you'll probably wonder where the best places are to figure these things out, to learn more about a specific language or just about coding in general. And I would personally recommend YouTube is a great one. I think that's why I'm here, to try and help people learn more about programming, innovation, and software. But even more so than that, there are so many tutorials on this site itself, so many opportunities for you to learn for free how to work with these languages. Besides that, working on a personal project, working on sites like GitHub, you can see other people's projects where they have production ready or very well polished projects of their own published on that site, where you can go through and read their specific source code. That's something that can be hugely valuable to someone who's just starting in their career, to see what other people are doing and what they've published as completed apps. So looking into GitHub, looking into other people's projects is going to be incredibly valuable as well. And as you move a little bit further into your learning curve, you'll be able to take on more competitions and personal projects of your own. As you start to get a little bit more experience, you'll want to get better and better at a language. Now, I personally think that programming competitions are an excellent way to really take your skills to the next level because I'm a very competitive person, so it's easy for me to see the value in that, and it's fun. You really get into those competitions, and I personally really enjoy it. But if that's not something that you love to do, a personal project or something that you want to provide to the world, you can host it or not, but a programming project of your own is something you're going to be able to invest your time into. And as you go through those different concepts, as you build different parts of your app or website or whatever it may be, you'll learn so much more about the language than you will just reading it in books or even just watching YouTube tutorials. You need to be able to take the things that you're learning and really apply them as you move forward. Okay, it's time to move on down through our list. So number 2 is JavaScript. Now, while it's not my personal favorite language, we talked about that one, that's definitely Python, it's one that I think everyone should understand because of its usability over the internet. So understanding JavaScript, you're going to understand a lot more about how aspects of the internet work. So you'll see these days things like AngularJS, React.js, so many different frameworks built on top of the JavaScript language that are being used right now to build very complicated web applications. Things like Facebook, Airbnb, even YouTube itself are built on these JavaScript frameworks. So it's very useful to understand how JavaScript works as a language. Now, one of the selling points that I explained for Python is that it's really easy to use, it's really easy to read through and understand. That's not the case for JavaScript. At least personally, I feel that it's one of the more complicated syntax languages that there are. However, because of its popularity, I would say it's one that everyone needs to at least understand how to use. And the best part is practicing with JavaScript is really easy. You can find a personal project fairly simply, and it's one that you can host very easily as well. It's something you can put up on the internet, you can showcase on GitHub or anywhere else that you want to provide to the world, or use it in an interview setting, use it as a portfolio item. JavaScript is fairly easy to publish like that, and you can pick any of those frameworks that you're interested in. So if you want to write in Angular, if you want to write in React, you want to build the next Facebook, you can really try and practice with those specific layers on top of the existing JavaScript language. Okay, so before I get into the third and final recommendation for programming languages to learn in 2019, I want to talk about object-oriented programming. Now, this is probably going to be a topic of an entire video all on its own, but it's something that really needs an explanation because today's world and today's applications are fairly complicated. Now, in order to keep that as simple as possible, they've developed object-oriented programming, and many of the languages and frameworks that exist today are using this framework. So object-oriented programming is, very simply put, encapsulating different parts of a project in their own segments that can then all be brought together and can work together for the final application. So understanding how that works is going to be a vital tool. So while it's not a language particularly, I would definitely recommend that you spend some time looking into what object-oriented programming is, understand the concepts behind it, and that will make learning the individual and specific languages so much easier. Okay, so language number 3 is C++. So this language is very popular. It's been around for a very long time. It was originally based off of the C language, but since then they've diverged a little bit. They're not necessarily exact copies of one another. They've kind of been used for separate purposes. And now, when I compete in a programming competition, I use C++ almost every time. It's very good at algorithms. It's very clearly written. It's very short and sweet. I think that's valuable to me. The syntax is not as easy as Python, and it's not as widely used as JavaScript as far as beginner projects are concerned. But I think understanding how C++ works is going to give you an excellent skeleton into how the rest of the languages work. So I give you my recommendations as 1, 2, and 3, and I would also recommend that it happen in that order. If you don't know any of these languages, I would recommend starting with Python because I think it's the easiest to learn as a beginner, and then moving on to JavaScript, where you can build a couple fun projects using that language and other existing frameworks like Angular and React. But once you've moved on from those, you've kind of dabbled in programming, you like what you're doing, it's fun, you're building cool projects, then I would look into C++ and really start to get into the more detail of what programming and coding is. So how C++ works, how the algorithms are going to work, how to write more efficient code. You can look into the big O notation. So lots of different things that you can dive into It's a huge field, obviously, but this is meant to serve as a way for you to get started in programming and really start to get your feet wet and hopefully enjoy. This is something that I think is very, very fun. I want more people to participate in, and I think showcasing these specific languages is something that will help other people to learn more about what they like about programming, what languages they would particularly like to use, and not every programmer is going to specialize in every single language. So having the opportunity to participate in and learn many different types of programming is going to help you understand what you like best. I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope that this has helped you to know which language you should learn in 2019. I know it's an exciting journey, and I'm so excited for you to participate in that. So if you have another programming language that you think I missed that we should also share as one of the languages that beginners should learn, please drop that in the comment section below, and we'll make sure that everyone gets to see it. If you like this video, as always, don't forget to like it and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks.